So I finally got around to installing the vents. Let me show you what they look like. These were honestly a complete pain in the ass to do, but it's definitely worth it. So I'm going to try to do a quick little recap of how to do this. Pretty much, let's say your old ones are broken, right? If you want to, you can go ahead and pop this off and break it off completely. And then what you got to do is pop this trim piece off right here. Pop it off on both sides. Once you do that, you'll have access to 2 screws, one up top right there and one on the other side. And then you have to take off these 3 in the bottom. Pop this thing off completely. Now you got to pop off the switch right here. It has 2 springs on the sides, and mine didn't have a screw on the bottom, but yours might. So try to pinch them together and pop the whole thing out. And then if you take off this cover right here, you can take off this little bolt right there next to this fuse right there, and that should give you some leverage to push this thing down a little bit. And there's a vent that goes inside. What you want to do is grab it and literally push it down and out of the way so you can access the screws at the top right here, and there's 2 right there as well. Sorry the camera's not focusing very well. It is really dark in here. I have really crappy lights, even though this is a new one and it's just as bright as these ones, but I'm leaving it as is since they're not that good. So once you pop that out of the way, you'll have some space to access from this hole to get to those screws. And these ones you can access through this steering wheel assembly when you pop this off. And it might help having a really short screwdriver. That's what I used. And pretty much just got to do everything in reverse, pop it in, tighten it down, and put everything back. The middle one's really easy. All you got to do is just pop off this center piece right here, pop it completely out, and you'll have 2 screws right there. One over here, one over here. Undo these 2 screws, and this whole thing should pop out. You just have to pop this off as well and put it onto the new one. Getting it in is a little difficult. You have to use some force, and whenever you do, you have to slide it in this way, down and forward at the same time. And you don't be afraid to put some effort on the corners right here to get them to pop in, because mine was kind of a pain. So once you do that, just tighten the screws down and pop this thing back in. This side though is not as hard. It's pretty much the same concept here. You can break it off completely if it's still attached. Take this out and you'll have 2 screws, 2 here and 2 over here. To get to them, all you gotta do is just pop open the glove box, which I'm not gonna do just because my handle's broken and it's gonna pop out again. There's 4 screws on each corner. Over there, over there, over there, and over there. The whole glove box will pop out. You just have to disconnect the light that's connected to. And there's a vent that also goes to this. There's a screw that the vent's held by. You gotta take it out, and the same thing here. Take it down and push it all the way over to access the screws. And once you get that, just pop them off, put everything back on, do it all in reverse. And yeah, that's pretty much how you replace them. I think it took me approximately 2.5 hours to do this. Not too bad, but definitely worth it. And don't get these from Mercedes or whatever if they still maybe make these. Get them from AliExpress. I think I paid like $250 or $300 or something along those lines, but it's way better than paying whatever Mercedes is going to charge you for these. But on to the fun stuff. I made a poll on my social media pages if I should remove the brush guard or not, but I'm going to go ahead and take it off right now and see what the car looks like without it. And I did go ahead and order some caps as well, just in case. They should be coming in about a week. So if I take this off now, I'll have 2 holes right there, but it's not a big deal. It's not really that noticeable. And as soon as they come in, I'm just gonna pop them in. And I am gonna go ahead and install the AC compressor either this week or next week. And hopefully I'll fix a few issues as far as the auxiliary fans or like the electric fans in the front always running. And the driver's side heat not working at all, only the passenger side heat is working. Previous owner did say that he evacuated the Freon, which hopefully he did. I don't feel like exposing myself to the Freon. So whenever I get to that, I'm gonna start shooting a video. like it like that. The holes right there are definitely messing with it, but as soon as the caps come in, it's gonna look so much better. Also, like I said before, I really want to know who did the facelift on this thing. I mean, look at these horrendous cuts. Look at that. Alright, so I'm holding a TC servo motor. It goes inside the transfer case, and pretty much this right here, the gears, will change from low to high. And I'm sure you guys remember I'm having issues with my high and low. This could be a fix to my problem. I'm not exactly sure. It was only $100, so it's not really that bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in today. But the main issue might be in there, which is the rear SAM. I have to take off this whole entire piece. And I'm speculating that I'm having corrosion on the connectors that lead to my TC servo, because you can see right there on the dash how it's not low or high. It's empty. So, and there it is right there. Pretty much all you have to do is just take off the 4 bolts that is being held by, and there's the connector over there in the top right, and the whole thing should come out, and then it's pretty easy to put it back in. Pretty much just use, you know, same order as taking it out. So that shouldn't be too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quickly. And also, I have these coming. So I showed you guys earlier what the car looks like without the brush guard, and I honestly liked it, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this off again and put those on. The thing is, whoever did this, you know, facelift like I mentioned before, has their hands growing out of their ass, and you know, a lot of fitment issues that I have to fix now. And the way this bumper is hacked up is also pretty bad as well. Whoever cut it up the way they did. And I also did have these arms come in for the blend door motor, whatever you want to call it, which pretty much lets the air in on each side of the car. So the issue is the driver's side, this vent and this vent only blow cold air. Whenever I turn on the heat, these vents will work, but not these two. Another thing that could be the issue is I don't have any Freon in the system. Previous owner removed the Freon from the system just because he thought the AC compressor was bad, which I do have in the box right there. Ignore the mess, I'm currently organizing and stuff. But hopefully next week I'll have the time to go through and replace the AC compressor, which it's all the way down there. And to get to the AC compressor, I'm gonna have to remove the radiator, which is gonna suck because there's a good chance I might break a hose. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm sure you guys are seeing this. And this is the rustiest hose I have ever seen my whole entire life. So there's a good chance this might break off, or it definitely will break off. So I'm gonna have to find a replacement before I remove the radiator. But once I fix all those issues that I just mentioned, I still have a trillion things I have to take care of, like, for example, fix the LED lights right there so they actually work. I did order some canvas plugs right here, so we will see if these work. People in the reviews said that they don't, but I'm gonna try them anyways, splice the wires and stuff, and I did get some fuses that I can tap into the fuse box as well. So let's get to it. And I'll give you guys an update once I'm done. So, remember when I told you guys that the H was missing? Here, let me show you. You can see right there. It finally appeared after I messed with the ECU and stuff. So pretty much this whole area in this location is called the rear SAM. The rear SAM controls the rear lights, license plate lights, tail lights, some other things in the car. There's also the front SAM, which is right in there. It's right there. So before I continue, I know these G-Wagons have issues with electrical components and stuff where they can be corroded. Look in the footwell area on the right side right there. Some of the wires could be corroded. I had one that was a little corroded, but once I unplugged it, it's right there. One of those wires was corroded. I unplugged it and it was actually clean inside, but I know some guys deal with issues with the whole entire area being corroded from the water leaking from in there somewhere. Another area that could be corroded is right there. Do you see those wires behind the carpet? Let me pull that back. Right there. But the issue that I had, the car wouldn't recognize that it's in high or low. So my thought, I thought that the actual rear SAM was the issue. You see those relays right there? If you take off this vent right here, right underneath it is the actual ECU for the transfer case. It's a little silver box that's literally beneath this ECU right here, the rear SAM. I'm currently putting it back together just because I got this to work, but I am waiting for one motor for the blender, whatever it's called, that adjusts the air that comes out of the vents. But disassembling this piece is pretty easy, so I'm going to go ahead and put all this back together meanwhile and test it out and make sure it all works. But getting to this wasn't really too difficult. The biggest issue that I had was getting to the bolts that are right here on the corners, right beneath the ashtray. I used a flathead like this, and I used it at an angle to loosen up the bolts. Took a while, but I got them. I don't know if there's like a different way to get those bolts. I'll show you later what I'm talking about. But once you get to this location, once you take off the actual armrest area, you just have to take off these screws right here. One over there underneath, one on the side, and then this piece will pop off. It's really not that bad. It's a little time consuming, but if you want to take off the whole entire rear SAM, I think you have to unplug pretty much everything to be able to squeeze it out. I did attempt to take off this whole entire cage. That might have been way easier, but there's a bolt that's beneath, let's see if I can show you. See those two nuts right there? There's a bolt that's near them that's hidden away, and I have to take off one extra component to get to the bolt that will be able to lift this piece off. But I got lazy and I didn't really do it. But by the looks of my rear SAM, all the wires look pretty well intact. I don't really see any corrosion, but the actual motherboard inside might be what's corroded. But if I run into any more issues later on, I will take this whole thing apart and try to inspect it. But for now, this will do. And there's also two bolts right there that are hidden on the side. There's one right there. And there's one underneath this. It's right there. But then you just have to plug this in. There's some connectors for the phone and stuff right here that you gotta plug in, and the connector for the cigarette lighter as well. But besides that, it wasn't too bad. The hardest part was honestly getting the bolts on the side by the seats. So if you're feeling like it, you could take the seats out as well. But that's a lot of extra work you gotta do. So yeah, pretty much to recap, if you're having issues with your TC not showing up on your cluster and the car kicking itself into neutral when you're at a stop, check out the module underneath the rear SAM. It's literally directly underneath this. It's next to this module right here. So there's this module and it's literally in front of it. Or check the wiring harness for the transfer case. I think it leads through right there, one of those wires, and it goes underneath the car and it plugs into the transfer case motor that I just replaced. That could be the issue as well. So check those things out if you guys are having issues with it. So pretty much the rear SAM has nothing to do with the transfer case. That's what I was told at least. And yeah, check out the wires right over there. Make sure those aren't corroded. And some right there that I showed you earlier. I do have this one plug that's just dangling around. this one right here. It's a black wire. I looked around and I couldn't really find what it's for. So if any of you know what this is for, please let me know. Because the funny thing is, you see the blue plug over there, the two blue plugs? One of them was disconnected. So I'm not sure if that was supposed to be like that or not, but I plugged it in, I started the car. I didn't really notice anything different, so I'm not exactly sure what it's for. If any of you know what those two blue plugs are for, please let me know. Alright, so I have the rear SAM out right now, and I have the transfer case ECU out as well. It's directly beneath the rear SAM. So the location for it is right here. Move all these wires out of the way. This is where it sits, in this spot right here. And the purple plug is what goes to the actual servo motor, and the purple wire travels through right here. There's the wire right here, and it goes around over there, and it goes through this little hole with the grommet right here. This is the actual wiring harness for the servo motor that goes inside the transfer case module. I'm not exactly sure what the other two plugs are for. I think they go forward in this wiring harness. And honestly, looking at all the plugs and the connectors, they seem just fine. I didn't really see any corrosion. And looking at the module itself, all the pins look okay. I was planning on taking it apart and prying up on these pins on the side, but I didn't want to break them because I feel like they're going to snap in half. So I just left it alone. This module itself, new, I think it's around $1,100. If you get it used on eBay, it's like $400 or so. But the rear SAM did have few signs of corrosion. I'll put up some pictures on the screen right now so you guys can see. I just took a cotton swab and some rubbing alcohol, and I wiped it off to get all the corrosion or whatever that was off. I did put it together because my goal was to actually take it apart and see what was on the other side, on the inside. But I guess this is built as one unit and it's non-serviceable. So I ended up putting everything back together. This cover right here with the screws. This was a pain in the ass to take off. So I pretty much did all that for nothing. But at least I know, and Harry, I'm telling you that you can't really take this apart. It did have some pins on the side, like little hooks that you can pry open, and I did that. And for some reason, this area right here felt like there's something that's holding it down, because this area I can pry up and move a little. See that? I can pry it up, but this side, it doesn't budge at all. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and just double check all the wires, make sure there's no rips or tears, any corrosion. I might take out the wiring harness for the servo motor right now, just inspect it further, and then put it all back together. I did get my battery charged up right now just because it died on me previously, so that could be another issue why. People did say that I can do the procedure by putting it in neutral, pressing the low and the high afterwards, and have someone else push the truck 6 inches forward and 6 inches back. And hopefully that engages the teeth on the servo motor and the transfer case and whatever else. So yeah, I'm gonna try that next if nothing else works out. In this clip, I'm gonna show you how to fix a very common issue. Pretty much these G-Wagons will have this vent and that vent that will blow cold air whenever your temperature is all the way in the hot. And the common issue is that these blender door arms will break. And here's mine, broken into 2 pieces. And the blender door is still in there. I have to fetch it out. But here's the new blender arm right here. You can get these on eBay. I think I paid like 15 bucks for 2. And there's the new one, a new blend motor. I'm gonna go ahead and replace it just in case, since I already have it out. And that one's probably the most difficult one to access. There's one right above the one I'm taking out. The initial spot for it was right there. And there's one that's right above. And there's one that's right over there on the right side. And there's one that's right above the front SAM. It is pretty much directly above it, right around this area somewhere. If you pop this down, you'll be able to reach it. Alright, so remember how I told you that the blender motor right there. I don't know if you guys can see very well. Right there. I just replaced that one. I haven't fully screwed it down, and I thought that one is what controls the vents up top. But that actually wasn't the case. As soon as I turned my defrost on for the front windshield, the motor actually started to activate, but I kept messing with the buttons for other things, and nothing happened. So I was really confused. I was like, is the motor faulty or something, or what? But after further investigation, you see this white thing and the yellow thing right there? The yellow thing was actually lower, so this thing right here was hanging down, and it was off the track that it's on right now. I know it's probably hard to see, but this is the best I can do at the moment. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go ahead and put her on max heat right now. Look at that. That was my issue this whole entire time. A simple fix. So now I should have heat on my side and I don't have to freeze my fingers off anymore. Getting to the blender motor right there is such a pain. It really helps to get this piece down to the side right there as well. And all of this too. I have this off for other reasons, of course, which you guys know that. But having all of this off helps. I just put this on for the time being so I can mess with the buttons and stuff. So this, if you take out the ashtray, it might give you some more space. I'm not exactly sure. I have pretty big hands, so me trying to fit hands to the smaller hole is really difficult. But the bigger one's a lot easier, so yeah. And of course, another issue I'm having is the washer fluid level is low when it's not. The washer fluid's topped up all the way. I think the issue is with the level sensor, and from what people said, if this is popping on and the cooler one is popping on, it's either one of them that's broken because they're kind of like together. So after I fix all of this, I'm gonna have to go in there and find the sensor and order a new one to replace it. But I'm not sure which one exactly, so I'm gonna order the cheaper one, which probably might be the washer fluid one. So we'll see.